We acknowledge that we are on Treaty 6 territory, the gathering grounds of many diverse First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples whose footsteps have marked this land and whose presence continues to enrich our vibrant community. Hello and welcome back to Research Recasted, the Knowledge Mobilization podcast. I'm your host, Kelsey Johnston, and today we are joined by Sheena Rossiter. Sheena Rossiter is a journalist, podcaster, filmmaker, and educator. Her career in media has spanned the globe after working as a foreign correspondent for over a decade. She is now an assistant professor and head of media production here at MacEwan University, where she is empowering the next generation of media professionals through audio and video content creation. Wow. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sheena.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be on the show. A longtime fan.
Yeah. So I was hoping to start off by if you could just give us kind of a brief overview of the work that you do here at MacEwan.
Yeah, so I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Communications in the journalism stream, so I mostly focus on journalism course. But in addition to the role, I also am head of media production, where I work a lot with the MacEwan TV studio operations coordinator to help develop curricula that's associated with our wonderful multi-million-dollar space that we have through the podcast spaces and the TV studio floor. So just really helping develop all those areas. And then we work a lot with community partners and fostering internships and external projects as well.
Yeah, which is amazing. Like, the space is actually such a great resource for the students here, and it's really amazing that we're able to use the space and to learn the equipment and to get like that hands-on experience.
Oh, I 100% agree. It's really fundamental to have this experience before you leave, because we're kind of an incubator where you can learn and make those mistakes now. You're always going to learn and fail forward. That's what career and work really is. That's what life really is. But it's just really wonderful to have those opportunities to really work with clients, to work with other people, work with other professors, to get those experiences so you can live and learn before the stakes are higher.
Yeah, which is so much better than just learning things like in an academic setting. So most of your career and your work here has been in journalism, and you do a lot of documentary filmmaking. And I'm curious as to why, like, what drew you to this form of like creative practice?
What really drew me to working with journalism and documentary films is the people. I really love meeting people and just like the lifelong learning that comes along with it. I really enjoy when I go out and I meet people and I learn something new about their culture, their language, or just in the area that they work in that I probably knew nothing about before. And when I was deciding what I wanted to do for a living, when I was actually a student here at MacEwan, I thought about going into social work or journalism. And I thought, well, journalism would offer me a lot of opportunities. I would always get to meet new people. True. I would always get to learn something new. Also true. I'd get to travel, which has absolutely been true throughout my career. And I would never get bored. And to this day, it's just lifelong learning. And it's never a boring day, always different, always keeping me on my toes.
That's amazing. So I want to talk about your work, because you've done a lot of documentaries in your career, but most recently over the summer you worked on one called The Perfect Match, and we will play a trailer for it.
The very moment Ezra came, I was filled with so much joy. One morning, he's just not doing anything. So I knew something was wrong. It was cancer. I knew nothing about stem cells.
Jacob needs to find a perfect match for his son. One of the challenges, donors and recipients are much more likely to be a match when there's a shared ethnic background.
very few Black people are on the stem cell registry.
I find within a lot of African communities, health in general is taboo.
Please step out there and swell so that you can save a life.
Could you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, so it wasn't just over the summer. We've actually been working on this project for 3 years. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm working on this project with my producing partner, but also my life partner, Sandra Silva, who's the co-producer and director of the project. So basically what happened, how it came about was 3 years ago, he got a phone call from a fellow Afro-Brazilian, because he's Afro-Brazilian himself. And the call was for him to get swabbed to donate blood stem cells, because blood stem cells are highly linked to your ethnicity and your ancestry. And at the time, there was a Ghanaian toddler that was in desperate need for a stem cell donation in order to be cured from this rare form of cancer that he had. So he was getting called for that. However, he couldn't donate because he was too old. You have to be between the ages of 17 to 35. There is an age limit on it just because of the viability of the success rate. Medically, you'll be more successful with a stem cell transplant if somebody's a little bit younger and below the age of 35. That's what Canadian Blood Services has the restriction on it here in the country.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That you have to be a certain age.
Exactly. So unfortunately, he couldn't donate. But then after that conversation, he thought, well, how can we make impact? And we can make impact by making a documentary about it and raising awareness about this, because a lot of people just don't know. They don't know that they can donate stem cells. They don't know about the age limit. They don't know that it's highly linked to ancestry and ethnicity. So after conversations with the father of the toddler, he agreed to do the documentary. Sandro obviously brought the idea to me right away. And then after that, I was tasked with the daunting nature of finding funding for it. So we took several months to develop it, because development can take a really long time. It can take years. So it took a while to develop it. We did some test shoots with Jacob Marfo, who is the father of the toddler. And after that period of time, we did that test shoot, and then we pitched it to TELUS Originals. After several months, we heard back that they accepted our pitch. So we received the majority of our seeding from them. But an important thing to mention, because filmmaking is a little bit different than funding other projects, because nobody funds you 100%. So although TELUS Originals did provide us with a broadcast license and they funded the majority of the project, we still had to go to other sources to complete the funding. And that's my job as the producer.
Yeah.
One of the jobs.
Was it challenging, like finding different funding for this project?
Funding's always a challenge.
Yeah.
It's always a lot of work to go get funding. But I think the key is once the first domino falls, which is that broadcaster's license, then it's much more streamlined to be able to get other funding. It's not to say that it's not a lot of work. You still have to do all the reporting, filling out the paperwork. You have to make sure that it aligns, and you have to check the funding sources to make sure everything lines up properly. But that is definitely a big piece of the puzzle. So, of course, filmmaking has become more democratic over the years. You can simply make a story on your phone, and quite literally both filming and editing now on your phone. However, things do get easier with more funding, because then you can hire all those extra professionals to do things like have a great director of photography, or have that excellent sound design, color grading, things like that, marketing and promotion, which is a massive part of the equation as well, because you can make a wonderful film, but if nobody sees it, does it make the impact that you want it to really make? So that's also a big piece of the puzzle. So funding is always a big component to any project in the arts, but definitely in filmmaking.
Right. So you kind of mentioned it, but so this idea for this film kind of just fell into your lap. You just got a call one day, and that sparked this idea. What sort of considerations did you have to make when developing this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. With documentary filmmaking, you are dealing with people's lives. We're not surgeons in the sense that it's not a question of the person's lives are in your hand, but their reputation's in your hand, right? So when we do create documentaries, it's really important that we always take into consideration that these people are allowing us into their lives to share their story. And it's important that we honor their story in the best way possible and that they're proud of the story and that they're just as much champions of it as we will be. So usually when we start working with people, we take a long time to work with them because they have to understand what it takes to make a documentary.
Yeah.
We will be following you around a lot. We will be asking you these questions. It's not just 1 day, 1 hour show up. There's a lot of pre-production that goes into play where we work alongside crews to coordinate everything. But also pre-interviews, a lot of phone calls, a lot of gathering, any kind of archival stuff they have in terms of photos, videos, news articles, things like that. But it does really take a long time. And not just that, but when we're filming with them, it takes a really long time for it to come out. So a lot of the filming that we've done was a year and a half ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So a lot of things take a really long time to come out. And the walks on the red carpet is a very, very small component of the whole process. So we just really want to make sure we coach people and let them know about the process a little bit better because we're not new to it, but they are. And this may be the only time that they're part of it. And it's an honor to be able to help empower them and share their stories and help them get that more out into the world, especially with something like The Perfect Match. What's the objective of the documentary? The objective is to get more people on the stem cell registry, especially people of color, especially Black, African people here in Canada, to really help save more lives. And that's really what we do is we really try to share these messages through personalized stories that help make impact in society as a whole. And that's the end goal, is to really get people engaged in that way. But it does take part of the participants. It does take some energy from them and time. And we want them to know the amount of time that it's required of them is not just a day.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people really realize how much goes into producing things that you would see like on Netflix or on TV, on TELUS. Like people don't realize the amount of people, resources, and time that it takes. Now, you're with this family from kind of like the process. You're doing pre-interviews, you're following them around day to day with cameras. How involved are they in the process, considering it's their story that you're telling? Obviously, they are the subjects of the documentary, but how involved are they in like the production process?
Yeah, so we followed around 3 people for it. So not just Jacob, who's the central focus, but we also have 2 other women, Eufoma Muen and Reve Brown, who their lives were saved by stem cell transplants. They both had sickle cell disease, and their lives were transformed when each of their sisters donated perfect matches. So perfect stem cell matches in order for them to survive their disease and to quote unquote cure them from the disease that they had. And so for all of them, we like to keep them informed throughout the process, again, within reason, because we also appreciate that it's time consuming. They can't watch every cut or anything like that. But on the other hand, you know, there does have to be a certain level of trust there because we're the experts in the field of making films and telling the story. So they do trust us, of course, with that. But we do like to keep them informed along the way as much as we can, and especially view the project before it goes out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great that they have some sort of a say and they can kind of be with it as it goes along. Just kind of keeping on with that, because by nature we all know that documentary filmmaking is a very collaborative process. It takes a village to produce something. So I was wondering if you could kind of walk us through. So you got this idea. How did you go about putting together a team for this project? Because you can't do it alone.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we had to actually, the team was almost made like day by day in some ways, just because that's the thing about documentary. You are following real people who have lives and schedules. And it's not like a scripted production where you book off 2 weeks and you just film the entire time and you have the same crew. Ideally, you would have that in documentary as well. But for us, it didn't work out that way because there were certain events we had to film. You know, this day we're having this event, so I needed crew members to be available on certain days at certain times based on the people who we featured, their schedules. So if a director of photography wasn't available that day, we would have to go with somebody else. And is that ideal? Not necessarily. You would ideally have the same director of photography the entire way through the project. But with documentary, that is kind of part of the process sometimes, that the show must go on and we do have to get people different days, certain times it's different people. Even one day, there was one shoot day I couldn't be there on set because the shoot days changed and I had a schedule change. So that just happens sometimes. So documentary, you do have to have that agility and flexibility because things can change.
Yeah. And I know in putting together this team, you worked a lot with community members and with students as well.
Yes.
Could you kind of talk us through that? Like, how did you go about finding the students, or what did they bring to the team?
Yeah, so we're really lucky. So we had 3 MacEwan students that were involved in this project. So I first want to give a shout out to the associate producer, Emily Rubaita. So Emily was a student of mine, took 3 or 4 classes with me throughout her journey here at MacEwan in the program of Bachelor of Communication Studies. And so she took several classes. She also did a series on Black History Month for the Human Rights Office, and also did another internship with us in the TV studio as well. So it was really an honor and a privilege to have her on the team during the project, because it really kind of helped her gain this extra hands-on experience beyond the documentary class. And this is what a real feature-length documentary will be like. And for her to get that associate producer credit and seeing how budgets and funding and the very, for lack of a better term, unsexy side of production, the spreadsheets, the lawyers, the accountants, for her to understand that side of things. And then she'll come out of this with an IMDb credit and an associate producer credit. I'm happy to say that she's already working at CBC Edmonton as a journalist, which is wonderful news, and I'm very proud of her. So, this will be an extra feather in her cap and an extra project that she can champion along the way. And I'm sure she learned a lot by being on set. But mentorship always works both ways. Even though I mentor other people, I always learn a lot from the mentees. It's a lifelong journey of learning. So so it was really an honor to have her on board. And then we had 2 other students that were from the music department, also recent graduates. We had Mercy Joshua and we had Kaylee Lambert. So Mercy Joshua actually had a connection to 2 of the subjects in the documentary. So Eufoma Moen and Reve Brown go to church with Mercy. So it was really important for us to have her on board to make sure that we had culturally appropriate music at certain times, not to mention that she's the assistant director of music for that church. So, and we have a scene where we filmed in their church with them. So we wanted to make sure that was culturally honored and everything. And then we got Kaylee involved as well, because with both Mercy and Kaylee, I had a lot of experience. We did several internships here through the TV studio, and we were able to hire them and bring them on board. In fact, for one of our department podcasts called The Relevance Report, Kaylee did the music for that podcast. So it was just great to have the opportunity, again, to have them on board, to have that interdisciplinary connection between communications and music, and then to be able to help empower some of our recent graduates. And they will also get IMDb credits as well to launch their careers as music composers in the industry.
Right, which is amazing. And again, just like people don't realize how much work goes in, but it's also very interdisciplinary where you need people with all different levels of, or all different types of skills and talents. And
oh yeah, we need, you need designers, you need to have, you need designers, like design would really fit in. You need to design all the lower thirds, all the captions, all the graphics, the poster. That required designer, musicians for all the music, because again, that's dealing with a lot of copyright and things like that. I don't deal with actors because I work in documentary, but also here within MacEwan, things like arts and cultural management, because we need things like publicists and also people who run film festivals to be able to mentor and help get those films out into the world.
So just to start to wrap up here, you've mentioned a lot about working with students and them going on to have careers, as well as this idea of lifelong learning, which I think is a really amazing sentiment. How do you see your work and the work that you do here at MacEwan and with your documentary and with all of your other creative research projects? How do you see that hopefully connecting to people?
Everything, all the research I do and all the creative practice it's by design. It is meant to connect with people. It's meant to inform. It's meant to educate and enlighten people in different ways. The best thing that I can always hear when somebody sees a documentary I've done or has listened to a podcast that I've produced is, I didn't know that, or I learned something new. That is the best thing that I can always hear from people, and just to have that level of engagement and that it creates a conversation. I think we create work for people to talk about it. And that's the best thing that you can do when people go and turn on Netflix and watch stuff. That is how you create culture, and you create conversations when people go out for brunch or when they meet up with their friends and family for dinner, is they talk about the things that they interacted with, things they read, watched, and listened. And that's the best thing that we can do through the work and the research I do by creative practice, is to have people be entertained, enlightened, and just learn something new. And that's just sharing the lifelong learning. That's the whole reason why I got into the career and why I do what I do in the first place, is to just really engage people and share perspectives and help enlighten them in different ways.
Amazing. I also want to ask, where and when can people go and check out The Perfect Match?
Yeah, so you can go to our website, which is theperfectmatchdoc.com, and that's going to be our website where you can see the trailer again, should you choose to. But more importantly, you can see all the behind the scenes. So we'll have some behind the scenes photos there. We'll have our director's statement. And that's also where we're going to list all of our screenings that we're going to have upcoming. So we're looking to engage both through community screenings and film festival screenings. We've been in the process of applying to different film festivals, so we will announce on our website which film festivals and where it will be coming out. But then we also plan to engage with a lot of community screenings. So we couldn't have made this documentary without the participation of Canadian Blood Services. They are the people in Canada who control the stem cell bank, and their community partnership has been vital to the success of this project. And we'll be working closely with them to ensure that as many people as possible get to see this across the country, so we can really get those donor numbers up. And then beyond the film festival circuit and community screenings, which we're going to be doing, it will be broadcast on TELUS Optic TV and TELUS Originals through their website and their portal.
We'll make sure to put the website into the show notes as well as the episode description for this so that people listening can go and check it out. But thank you so much for joining us today and talking to us about your project.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure to be on the show and an honor. And I just hope that everyone can really check out and enjoy The Perfect Match. It's a really heartwarming story where we really explore a lot about the topic. And even though it seems a little bit medical, it's really great that we got the time from Jacob, Euphoma, and Reve. We were really grateful for all three of their participation in the documentary film. And without them and without their communities, this project wouldn't have been possible.
Well, that's all we have for today's episode of Research Recasted. If you want to support this podcast, you can visit Research Recasted on your favorite podcast platforms to find new episodes every 2 weeks. Also, don't forget to check us out on Instagram at Research Recasted, where you can give us a like, leave us a follow, or send us any follow-up questions you have from today's episode. This has been Research Recasted, the Knowledge Mobilization Podcast, brought to you by the Office of Research Services and the Faculty of Fine Arts and Communications at MacEwan University.